Hello there. It's Sorsha Renarius, and with me today I have a special guest, Rufus Opus, also known as Joshua. Some of you may know him as Joshua, but he is here today. He's agreed to come on and have an awesome chat about the moral imperative of cursing the fuck out of people.
It really is
So,
an imperative.
yeah, I feel like it's something that we all do to some extent, but not everybody is open about it.
Yeah, that's actually something that we run into a lot as magicians who've done this stuff for a while. There's this idea that we aren't somehow supposed to um, use our full box of tools when it comes to actually making things happen in the way that we want to manifest things. It's like we're supposed to be crippled for some reason, by some kind of morals or um, ethics or some kind of idea that cursing is wrong. And I really appreciate this opportunity to address that because I think we really have a moral imperative to curse the fuck out of people sometimes.
Oh, I love that. I agree. And well, do we want to, share a little with anybody watching kind of, how we, came to this point? I mean, I know that I saw that post, you had this, this epic post on your page and, I commented and I saw other people commenting and it was a hot fucking topic for people.
Yeah,
And
for
it,
some
it was
people.
kicking it, you kicked the bee's nest, man. You kicked the bee's nest. But this is good because this is like it needed to be kicked. It needed to be kicked, but it generated a lot of thought and conversation. And I think out of that, we're like, hey, let's sit, let's put this out there and run with it.
Right. And what actually started it was a conversation about abortion. What I said was that, I do not generally unfriend people on Facebook if, you are politically opposed to me or if you have different ideas, if your approach to things is different than mine, I don't really give a shit. You can do what thou wilt as a whole of the law. I have very few I don't know, rules about who can be my friend and who can't. But when it comes to abortion and the woman's right to uh, decide what happens with their body after they're impregnated, I kind of feel like that's drawing the line when other people, especially men, try to tell women that they are legally not allowed to uh, you know, abort a fetus. It's not this thing that happens when you get pregnant is that you are granted the opportunity to bestow upon something a human life. But at the same time, for 9 months, you are the host for a symbiote. It's basically just something that's feeding off of you that can only exist because you give it the food and shelter that is necessary to be incubated until it's ready to come into being. And
Exactly.
as long as that's true, I believe that a woman has the right to decide whether or not to terminate that particular uh, parasite that's living off of her. I mean, I think she has that right. It's her right. It's
Absolutely.
her body. She's the one that's providing all the sustenance. She's the one that's doing all the stuff that actually results in a child. Who doesn't think that a person who is the host for this thing, you know, doesn't have a right to choose whether or not to stop that that whole process. I don't get
Mhm.
it. It's like telling somebody that you have a tapeworm, and now that you have a tapeworm, you have to host that tapeworm until it can move on to some other, I don't know, host. I mean, it's
Exactly.
not. You don't get to tell somebody that they have to host all their fucking parasites. It's not right, And in my opinion, that is something that is pretty evil, especially when it's children, because it's an 18-year sentence if not a lifetime sentence, to being responsible financially, emotionally, morally to another human being, And basically, when you get down to the root of it, what people really hate about abortion is that somebody had sex and doesn't have to suffer the consequences.
Thank you for saying that. A lot of people but that is the key issue. It's, being able to have, you know, to normalize sex and sexuality and being able to, yeah, not be punished. I mean, some people see punishment as a curse, some people see it as a blessing. And, I have lots of friends who have kids. I personally don't. I've never wanted children myself. But I love kids. I have nieces and nephews. I can get my kid feel that way.
Sure.
But, personally for me, I physically do not want them coming out of my body. I've never
Well,
ever wanted it.
and that's great that you know where you're at with that, And every woman, every person capable of having a child should know where they're at with that.
I think so. But what's really interesting is that, and, as demonstrated by the many, many comments on your post as a result of, putting that out there, and, I think, a few people come to mind in particular, but there was, the one, the crazy lady that, there were a lot of crazy people that came out of that bag, let me tell you. But it
Yeah,
was, there was like there were two that came to mind in particular. The one guy that was, calling women, evil, vile bitches,
right.
for
Crazy,
choosing to
crazy
yeah,
bitches.
crazy evil bitches, and that, well, his argument was, well, it's my sperm. Well, dude, your sperm, is in my body, so then therefore it becomes like it's mine. I mean, there's so many different ways that could go. I mean, people
Right.
argue, well, then should a woman be able to trap a man and him pay, child support? I mean, if he doesn't want it, I mean, there's lots of I mean, I still think, bodily autonomy, like it's an absolute right.
Right.
I mean, that's
Everything.
my personal stance on it, but I realize it is kind of a complicated thing when, I could understand how it might be heartbreaking for a partner that maybe wants the child, but the woman doesn't. I mean, I can feel for them. I mean, I've known people in that circumstance, but at the end of the day, it's goddamn it, it's my body, my fucking choice. Like,
Right.
end of
It's
story. Nobody else gets an opinion.
speaking
Um,
speaking as a guy with a penis who actually uses it to, have sex. Everything that's inside of my skin is mine, and I get to decide what I do with it. And as soon as it leaves my body, that's it. That's the end of my sovereignty over that particular, you know, thing.
mhm.
So, yeah, but anyway, the post was not entirely just about abortion, right?
No, but it kind of that tended, that kind of came up because it was like a good example of, people kind of using this extreme, well, what about this? What about this? And I know when I chimed in on it, because I have, very strong views on that particular topic,
Yeah.
especially. But when I
Yeah,
chimed in, I
that came
mean,
through.
I was kicking the bee's nest too, and the bees came out, and I had to have my little can of Raid, my little can of troll spray.
Right.
Um, but it was, I mean, it was really like, because they tried to, use the example, well, okay, well, if you had a 6-year-old kid, would you be fine killing it because that's what you're doing? It's murder. So I was called a murderer for, being supportive of a person's right to choose. And then,
Right. As
you
if
know,
as if once it comes out, it's the same thing as if
yeah,
it's still
exactly,
inside. And that
exactly.
that argument is complete bullshit.
Yeah, it is bullshit. But this idea of, okay, but this, and then part of the, like with that post, when people were coming out, everyone has really strong opinions about, especially that topic, abortion. But then this idea of, okay, when the cursing aspect came out, it's like, okay, our premise is that, okay, if we have this right, this idea of, personal responsibility, personal freedom, absolute bodily autonomy, and then if somebody else is infringing, like, where do my rights end and yours begin? And like you said, at the end of my skin, when it's out of my body, it's, like,
It's not my choice.
yeah,
I've given
exactly.
up my
And but
choice
then
to
people,
have an orgasm. That's it. I gave
yeah,
up my choice at that moment.
and what gets me though is like these people like that, okay, people, bombing clinics, people, when other people try to legislate other people's bodies based on their concept of morality, like, that is crossing the line. And that is where I feel like the curses come into play, because to me, if you are trying to infringe upon my body, my sovereignty, my being, my inherent fucking rights as a human being on this planet, because I see that as, completely, we are all our own little sovereigns. Okay. And when you have somebody else trying to inflict their view on you and then limit you, to me, that is an act of war and should be dealt with as such. And
Right. And
so a cursing as a response to that, as warfare to these oppressive, whether they're religious, social, political structures that seek to limit and control people. Absolutely, I think cursing is like an imperative at that
right.
point.
So, and going back to the original post that I made, one of the things I said in it that actually riled up some people was that not only am I gonna unfriend you, but I have a specific curse for your ass because you are impugning other people's rights to their own sovereignty. And if I look back over the last 6 years, I've cursed a total of two people, and both of them were telling women what to do with their bodies. One was a very personal thing. It was a friend of a friend who was telling my friend that they could not get an abortion because they had sex and got pregnant, and that the consequence of that is you must have the child. So I cursed the fuck out of that guy because,
Good.
I mean, who is he to tell her what to do with her life? And, I supported her through all of the things that she went through after that. And it's not like abortion is a wonderful choice and a freeing thing that happens to women. It's not like that they don't go through the rest of their life knowing that they had an abortion. It's not like they have this this feeling of, oh, it's I'll just have an abortion when they go into it. No, every person is a human being. And the complete lack of human compassion that these people express when they tell women that they can't have an abortion because they got pregnant because they had sex, you know, fuck you. It's not like it's what they want to do. Nobody wants an abortion, and
Sometimes
that's
it's
something.
like, oh, I want to have an abortion today. Let's have 10 more. I mean, that's what a lot of people believe, that people are thinking that, that the support choice. And that's really not the case. It's not an easy fucking decision. It's one that's, usually thought out, pretty carefully before doing it. I mean, some people just, no, yeah, there's no fucking way I want to be pregnant. Boom. That's, going to always be the response. People might argue, well, use protection. Well, you know what? Sometimes things fail, or sometimes people
Yeah,
can't take, they're allergic to latex. They can't take birth control pills, surgery maybe not be a viable option for them, but I feel like, okay, looking at it also from, okay, we want to talk about imperatives. Okay, we talk moral imperatives. A biological imperative is sex. Unless you're completely like, people who identify as like asexual may not experience like, you know, sexual desire to the extent that like, maybe more people in society do, but that is like a biological imperative, to, I mean, and people might say, well, yeah, to procreate, but no, I mean, to feel good. It's, it's the
well,
endorphins. It's a
yeah,
natural thing. I mean, yeah, procreation can be a,
a
sex
side
can obviously,
effect.
it's a
It's
side
it,
effect,
it's a
it can be
side
their side
effect.
effects,
But
you
but
know,
human beings, we actually have the ability to orgasm without having babies. You know,
exactly.
that's something that separates us from a whole ton of species on the planet. Cats have these barbed penises. Dogs, they can't get out of their partner
Mhm.
until the partner has absorbed all of the semen. It's
Other
human.
animals masturbate and it doesn't, even by themselves. I mean, dolphins have been known to,
Oh yeah,
masturbate,
it's
like,
basically us and dolphins.
yeah, so there's lots of creatures that will enjoy sexual pleasure for the sake of just the pleasure alone without necessarily seeking somebody to procreate with.
Right.
Um and
But
but so it is more than just a, a pro like a crotch fruit, crotch gremlins, and I mean, people might think, oh, you hate kids. No, I love kids, like I said,
well, yeah.
I have nieces and nephews aplenty. I enjoy, spending time with them. Tiny humans are wonderful if you want them. But if you don't want them, then, do yourself a favor and don't have them, because it's, strapping you and them into a lifetime of resentment. And a lot of people say, well, you'll change your mind once you become a mom, once you become a parent. For some that may be true, but there are people like myself who have always known, I never biologically want to have kids. It's not going to ever fucking happen. Um, some people, they have that supposed bio clock. I've never understood that. I mean, I have too many things to do, I mean, not that you can't also have time for a family, but it's not on my agenda of things to go out and do.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be on anybody's agenda. And that's the thing is there's this thing in our society that women have to have babies. But
Yeah.
there's also this thing about men have to control women and treat them as property and say as soon as you're impregnated, you must do X, Y, and Z. And that's the kind of thing that as a magician, I believe warrants, some kind of active response because it is not spiritually useful for us to continue to have too many kids to support in our global economy. I mean, there's only so many resources, there's only so many things that can be done, and we don't want to bring new spirits into a world where they can have the nurturing and the spiritual teachings that they can use to accomplish the great work in the Western mystery tradition.
Mhm.
you know that's kind of our jobs as magicians, is to make sure that every child born advances the spiritual evolution of our humanity. We're supposed to be moving forward. This whole I'm totally into hermetics, like 100%. Neoplatonism, manifestation of the unified deity, all that stuff. And the whole purpose of incarnation and having children is to provide a means for the rest of humanity to advance, and that's sort of our goals. And if we're failing to do that, if we aren't financially able to take care of our kids, if we're not emotionally able to take care of our kids, if we're not spiritually advanced enough ourselves to provide a framework for them to, ladder up from where we're at to the next level and take it to the next level for the next generation, we have no business as magicians having kids. And furthermore, when we have these idiots out there saying stupid shit about how women have to have babies once they get pregnant, I mean, that's actually like a fungus. It's a cancer. It's a disease that is robbing us of our
Mhm.
overall, purpose in the whole Western Hermetic tradition. We're supposed to be moving forward spiritually and attaining this, somehow utopian society. And, I'm cynical about that. I don't think we're going to get there, but whatever. I think that's still the goal, and bringing children into a fucked up environment where you're broke and you're going to be a single mom trying to raise a kid on your own in a society that won't provide welfare and will not help you in any way, shape, or form to provide the spiritual and conscious and intellectual advancement that your kids need. If it's designed to make them a bunch of fucking wage slaves, I mean, why would you do that to any individual? So that's where, in my opinion, the moral imperative of cursing the fuck out of people comes into play. Those people who tell other people what they have to do with their body, fuck them. They are actually not only like stopping the advancement of our spiritual evolution, but they're reversing it. They're
Mhm.
taking it back generations. Fuck that. If you're actually an active person who is looking to advance this whole spiritual evolution of all of humanity, and that's an oath that we take in this whole Rosicrucian stuff that I'm into.
Mhm.
You know, if you're really serious about that, that means cutting off the things that are not only tying you back, but trying to drag you backwards, you know?
Exactly. Well,
So,
and that's the thing, when people were commenting, they said, they're looking at their responses, going through all those comments, people were saying, well, so basically this is about you cutting people off that have different opinions. And no, that was
right,
not at all the fact. And that's not, it wasn't, because you can have opinions. Like we can agree to disagree about a lot of things. And I have people all over the spectrum, religiously, politically, magically different, this profile and other places, where I'm at. I have and the ones that, stick around because we can respect that, hey, we can agree to disagree on certain things. However, there are certain issues that if you cross this line, I do see this as an act of war against me. I see you as no better than a rapist. If you're trying to violate somebody's bodily autonomy, that is tantamount to a form of rape, even though it's not physical rape, but it's like raping your autonomy. I mean, that's the feeling that, I experience as a woman when somebody's trying to control my body, trying to tell me how I'm going to live my life to the point where they are actively opposing me, trying to legislate me, or,
right,
physically inserting themselves some way, thinking that they have a right to do that. And, their whole prerogative as well. Okay, we gotta, for the greater good, we have to, control other people. So it's okay to trample your rights because we got to protect those babies. That was their argument. And it's like, no, that's not actually how it works. And if you are going to continue to be the aggressor, then don't be surprised when your ass gets cursed, okay? Because it's going to happen,
right. And
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 they
and
were
the thing,
horrified. They were horrified. A lot of people were horrified at that. But really, this should be, we should normalize cursing, and but people also shit kittens about that. A lot of people feel like, well, hey, I'm a magician. I don't curse. It's not really an option. Okay, that's fine for you, but don't try to think that you're above that. Don't try to think that you don't curse because, your thoughts are energy. And anytime that you are, you know, thinking something that maybe is negative about somebody, that is a curse. These Christians, religious groups, Christian curses are some of the worst, like this whole, because they have the social backing, the social support. They have, the strength in numbers. And when you put multiple people together, putting that true will together, whether it's in the form of a prayer, worship, whatever they're doing, like they do have the benefit of the strength in numbers and that unified
right.
intent. Um,
Can
I can
can I,
respect that for what it is, even if I, disagree on some fundamental levels, obviously with their philosophies and dogma, but I can respect, okay, this is, why it's lasted is because, of this coming together, and okay, that works for them. But as magicians, we have to be able to, not believe that we are above cursing because nobody's above it, because people, you curse whether or not you admit to it or believe you do. But any energy that you send out, can be a curse. I mean, even blessings, like what's good for
oh
you
yeah,
might be perceived as a curse for another person. That job promotion that you got for yourself, well, I'm not cursing anybody, I'm just getting ahead. Well, maybe that was, acting as a curse for another person by barring their entry. So
yeah. One of the things I'm kind of famous for doing is blessing the fuck out of people, and blessing them with illumination, personal enlightenment, and just using like solar powers, the sun, to bless them with enlightenment and understanding of where they are in life. Because sometimes that can be the worst curse that anybody could actually have to face is knowledge of what a fuck up they are, and I think that is, you know, I enjoy doing that to people.
well, and
I-
it's like the blessing can be the curses, and the curses can be blessings because you
right.
can, curse a spirit of disease. You can curse the sickness and cure somebody. So you can use curses to heal the world as well and
Well,
each other. So,
exactly.
they work hand in hand. You can, bless somebody that to curse them, and you can curse somebody to bless somebody. I mean, it really is, kind of two sides of the same coin, as I see it. It's just a different
Well,
way of perceiving it, you know, of looking at it, and how you see yourself in that. And all these people who believe that they don't curse, I call bullshit. I understand. Because I've been there. I've been there, and I mean, when I do magic, I mean, I generally like the intent that I have in my mind is I generally like to help people, do nice things, do things that are geared more towards, human evolution in a sense. To me, that just feels more positive. I would rather focus on what I want to see rather than, battling what I don't want to see. I mean, that's just basic energy dynamics there. But I feel like there are times when, okay, when it comes to your doorstep and people are knocking at your door, trying to kick it in. It's like, and I think the example that I gave, on your post when I commented, and I said, hey, if I have like a robber breaking into my home, he might get 2 bullets in his brain pan. It really is that simple. And I don't
Yeah,
see it as any different with people trying to violate your bodily autonomy. And I said, you know what? If if you're coming at me, I'm going to see you as, the robber kicking in my door. I'm going to assume you don't have good intentions. You don't respect my space, whether it's my home, whether it's my body. And you know what? Those curses are going to have the same effect as 2 bullets. And, people came unhinged.
right.
Oh, you're a violent person. You need psych help. No, dude, I don't. I don't.
No,
And I
you're
see cursing. I see cursing like a weapon. Okay, yeah, you don't just brandish your gun at Walmart. I mean, some people might, and that's why we have people at Walmart.com. We can get a good giggle out of all the craziness there. However, you don't just like brandish it about. And I think people who are like waving their weapons around really are, either compensating for something or they're very insecure. I feel like, maybe it doesn't have to be your first line of of defense, but when it's needed, you know what? Like I'd rather have an arsenal at my disposal, but it's not like I'm gonna, shoot a mosquito with a cannon. When a fly swatter would
right.
work, you know.
But at the same
Um,
time, sometimes shooting a mosquito with a cannon, it sends a lesson to the other
It
mosquitoes.
does, and that's exactly it. Is you crucify a few people in your front yard, and the rest of the neighborhood is not going to fuck with you. Okay, and I've done that. I have on social media. Like I usually try to stay out of drama on social media. I try to just do my work, do my thing, focus on what I want to do rather than engaging in bullshit and drama. But there have been times, particularly with when I first hit the scene, out here as Sorsha, I got bombarded with dick pics. Okay, it was a
Oh,
sausage fest in my inbox,
well,
and
I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna give you any shit about that, but all your profile pics on Facebook are just like really hot. So I mean, you're kind of
thank you.
you're kind of asking for it.
Oh, well, no, but I mean, this was like, I mean, but
I'm so sorry. Wait,
no, I
wait,
mean,
wait,
like,
wait. No, I'm really sorry. I never meant to say you're asking for it. You never asked for it. I know you didn't ask for it, but
I
that
know,
was
I know,
but
I know. But yeah, but like people, when people come out and it's like, look, I'm not a prude by any stretch. I mean, hell, one of my rights I offer is, is a sexual sorcery type of right. So it's like I'm not prude with my magic, with sexuality, but to me, it boils down to consent. And I'm sorry, but I was telling people, look, please, like, hey, I get you're trying to connect. That's cool, but that's not what I'm here for. Thanks, but no thanks. I tried the gentle approach. I tried everything. I tried flat out being like, fuck the fuck off. Do not send that shit. Nothing worked. I kept getting, everything in my box. And so I
right.
started a wall of shame. So I publicly started naming and shaming these people, posting their profiles, their pictures. I even went so far as to message somebody's auntie. And when I started publicly, to me, that's like a crucifixion, man. I'm going to just
Well,
publicly,
yeah, it's a public curse, right? I mean,
yeah.
that is the essence of cursing. And
There's not been one dick in my inbox since I did that. And then publicly posted on it and said, okay, this is where your dick's going to go. It's going to go on that wall. We're going to play, pin the dick on the moron if
that's
you
awesome.
continue this. Not one inappropriate message or picture since then. But at
Well,
this point,
that's
that's how I
cool.
choose to handle it. That's how I handle it. So yeah, if you
And
want to send me your dick, that's where it's going to go. I'll
can
make you fucking
can I say
famous.
something real quick?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, I did not mean that you were ever asking for it just by having hot pics on Facebook. That is not what I meant. What I meant was that dudes are stupid, and when they see hot pics, they will send dick pics, and it's just because our society is fucking retarded,
I
and
know.
men are fucking retarded in our society.
Oh,
I've
I know
never
you were commenting on the that's the mentality that people are
right,
coming. Yeah,
right, but
no.
but the words I used are actually rape apologist words, and that's something that as a man, actually, I've had that problem before where I end up being like a really good friend of mine turned out to be a fucking anal rapist, you know,
Wow.
seriously evil person. But I couldn't believe it. because I knew him so well, you know, but I didn't know him at all. I
Mhm.
didn't know him as a human being. I knew him as my friend, and my friends are my friends, you know. And when I found out that he was an anal rapist, it just it changed everything, you know. And that I just want to be really clear that I do not support sending dick pics to women. I mean, it's just it
I
it,
didn't
it,
think you
it
did.
no, I don't. But I mean, it's important that people understand that you can get caught up in that shit,
Mhm.
and this is where applied cursing can be a useful thing, because you have to excise that kind of influence out of the whole human manifestation experience. We
Mhm.
can't just put up with it. You know, yeah, we might think that so and so is a good person, and sure, they would never do that, and oh, it's just a dick pic, and oh, you're really hot on Facebook, so of course guys are going to want to come to you. But you know what? It's okay to curse those people because they are evil.
I mean, in the case of dick pics and just, inappropriate messages, I just, usually I'll just, block and delete, I
Right.
mean, automatic block and delete. But, I had to
Sure.
send a message. And, because like I said, it was just so annoying. So it's like, yeah, that was my message I sent. Haven't had an issue since, it's
Right.
been
So
fine.
you use social media to kind of curse
Same.
them in their
Yeah, I
efforts.
mean, even though I wasn't like actively, I didn't have, my candles and my incense and my dark and twisty stuff, like that wasn't how I set it up, but it was like, social media can be a useful tool when it comes to social shaming people that, are being giant douchebags. You
Right,
know,
but
I,
you know that Weiner guy? What is his name? Steve Weiner, the politician, some kind of
yeah,
Scott
yeah.
Weiner, and whatever
Mhm.
his name was, right? So I mean, he kept doing it time after time after time. Even after it came out that he was doing it, he still did it. And now he's in like sex therapy, and maybe that'll make a big difference. It's not going to make a difference. He's got an issue. He is a cancer on society, and he goes after college-age women who don't know any
Yeah,
better. He targets specific people. So at that point,
exactly.
getting back to the actual topic, the moral imperative as
Yeah,
somebody who sees a problem as a magician is that we have to do something about it. You know, when you see an illness that's affecting the body, you cut it out. You don't when you have an infection you take antibiotics. If you
exactly.
have a tumor, you cut it out, you
And
know?
that's, some people might think that that's a slippery slope. They might think, well, you know, who are we to decide what is, making a good community? But it's like it should be, kind of apparent, like things that are impeding upon other people's free wills. When you
Well,
have people that are,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, I feel like, okay, people have, like I've been a social activist, in different arenas there. And I think like we could be magical activists. I feel like, magicians can, you know, take the initiative to do their own thing. I mean, if people, there's never a shortage of people to curse. If you want to try out something new, try out a good curse you got cooking up, just look at the fucking news, man. There's so much shit out there that like, things that just, you scroll through my feed, my blood's boiling like, oh my God, people hurting animals, abusing kids, doing horrible things. It's like, these are the kind of shit stains on humanity that just can be wiped the fuck out. Okay.
Right.
If anybody
And
deserves a curse, it's those kinds of people. I
it
mean,
is really good practice too.
it is
I
good
mean,
practice. Yeah.
there are obvious choices.
Yeah. There are obvious choices, but I mean, I feel like, but it's interesting, people's responses because, for as open minded as the magical community is, it's still it's still kind of a trigger issue for people, this idea of, well, hey, only black magicians curse. Well, yeah, I am a black magician, but I do other things too. I don't spend every day cursing because if I cursed everybody that, annoyed me or pissed me off, like that would literally be like I mean, I could spend just all my time doing that,
Right.
but I have better things to do than scroll social media to look for people to curse. But I mean,
Nobody
hey,
has time for actually cursing everybody who deserves it.
exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. But I mean, hey, I see it as okay. If by somebody being completely stupid and just being a terrible person in general, and they're out there just the fuckery doesn't stop. And when they are so grossly negligent with humanity, or they are so crossing so many boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. Okay, to me, I see this as congratulations, you've volunteered as tribute, thank you for your sacrifice.
Right.
And
You
I
know,
don't have to go searching. They either seek us out, or they just kind of they're just out there, and you can just do what you feel is best to do to just to manage it. And I feel like
okay. So what do you think happens when you actually curse someone? Like if you give somebody a death curse, and I really have no qualms with giving death curses, honestly, to be completely frank. But what do you think happens to somebody who you give a death curse to and then they die?
I think that's awesome. One, I think it's a necessary, way to deal with things. But I mean, for me, like I mean, there's different, curse theories out there. But like if I'm going to try to do something like very painful, up to like with some of my work, I'll be like, okay, I'll either, partner with spirits, and be like, okay, I mean, usually I would try to teach people, like life lessons, but hey, it can go up into and beyond, the point of death if it needs to escalate. I absolutely am fine with, two bullets in the head,
Right?
magically, that's the equivalent. I have no fucking qualms with that. But I feel like, okay, it could be like, okay, you launch something out there, it's energy. So it could be that, the world's kind of, the, I don't know if I want to use the word fate, but like the universe lines up to where synchronicities happen that maybe they, their health fails. Like I think the curses can play upon pre-existing conditions. If somebody
Well,
already is
sure.
prone to,
Sure. All right. All right, but let's not get in the weeds here.
addictions, yeah, addictions, sickness, it can just bring that out and intensify it. If
Right,
I
but
mean, I
what
find that,
happens to the
before.
person? The person themselves, what happens to them? Like, okay, I incarnated, I was born, I grew up with whatever influences I grew up with. I'm an asshole. I said some negative things. I pissed off somebody who can death curse me. What happens to me? What actually happens to the spirit that you
Oh, you mean
death
like
curse?
after they die,
Yeah,
after they die. I think that people can, I think that you're kind of like, might be drawn to like. So if you're like an evil, nasty person in this life, you might be drawn to those types of energies outside your body, or I mean, I hope that people can evolve. I hope that people can do better. If there's reincarnation, I hope that people can do better the next time around and be better, learn to be better fucking human beings,
right.
learn
And
some
see,
lessons.
that
But I
that's my approach. Honestly, if I curse someone to death, I really hope they die. And basically, I see it as going back to the end of the line. Try again next time.
try the
Better
next
luck.
time.
Try not to be such a dick. You
Well, it's like
know?
chlorinating the human gene pool.
Exactly.
Okay, you're like a cancer. Like, if you're like a piece of gangrene, as a surgeon, I'm going to use my scalpel to cut off the leg that is going to kill the rest of the body. So, to save the body, yeah, I'll cut off an arm or a leg. Okay.
Right.
Um,
It's
and it's
necessary.
painful and it may be, traumatic on some level. However, to save the, people say, well, when you start getting into, well, it was for the greater good, that could be really extremist or sound just like a, no better than a fundamentalist. I can see their concern, for that. But I feel like if you wield it responsibly and, hey, we're not cutting off healthy tissue here. Okay, we're cutting
Right.
off, damaged, destructive tissue that is, like a cancer to fucking society. So yeah, you are doing humanity a favor by, you know, chlorinating the gene pool by cutting off that arm.
And that
That's how
and
I
that
see it.
and that's the moral imperative, right? That's what we're here to do as magicians. If we're actually going to take authority over not just our own lives, but the advancement of all of our brothers and sisters, if we're going to actually take on that mantle of being the magus that takes care of our brothers and sisters, part of taking care of that eliminating the threats to their personal well-being, and giving those miscreants an opportunity to try again, and do better next time because they fucked it up this time. And maybe it's their parents, and maybe it's society, and maybe it's the whole class system, and maybe whatever excuse, but they're assholes. And when they're assholes, they gotta go, you know?
I,
When
I
they're,
absolutely agree.
yeah, and going back to our original source of this whole conversation, one of the ladies that was fighting with you, whose name I won't mention, even though I want to, you know, um,
She
her,
couldn't handle the shit storm that would probably rain down on her as a result. People, but you know
yeah,
what? I mean, it's like, okay, I can give her that, like, okay, I don't need to send everybody, I mean, people can see it. I don't know if the post is still up or if it was,
no,
taken
no,
down.
I made it private. I'm gonna make it public again
Okay, good.
after a little while. I don't want it to be. I actually got sick of all the commentary on it because
It was a
I was
lot. It was,
yeah, I was
it was
at
a
work
lot.
and I was getting angry
And
and
that's hard when you're at work to kind of respond to all of that. But oh my God, it generated a lot of conversation. Yeah, there was a lot of, just snarky comments and trolls coming out to play. But I mean, I feel like it did serve a purpose because you got people to fucking talk and think.
yeah.
Um,
So I will make it public again eventually, but not today. But what her response to me privately was that she gave me an opportunity to apologize for threatening her with a curse.
and here's the
And
thing is, you didn't seek her out, hey, lady, I'm going to personally curse you. It was just like, well, hey, if you're in this classification of people, if you're the type of person that does X, Y, and Z, consider yourself, it's open fucking season on your ass. Okay. So she
well,
took that very
yeah,
personally.
well, because she knew. And
Mm-hmm.
I specifically said, everybody who's posting pro-life bullshit on here, you're basically inviting a curse, and you're acquiescing to being cursed. And I really appreciate that because I'm going to curse your asses for being a dipshit and imposing your will on others. So what was really interesting to me about that was she had all these reasons for why she was, you know, espousing her opinions on things. And I kept asking her, "Do you believe your opinions should be the law of the land and imposed on other people's will?" And the point at which she stopped talking to me was when she suggested, well, maybe a compromise would be that we take it down to the state level and let each state vote on whether or not abortion should be legal, and then if people wanted to have a certain kind of abortion law, they could move to that state and live there. And I said, or we could take it to a more individual level and let every individual decide whether or not they wanted to have a baby, and then every vote would count, and
Yeah.
that's the only way this would be fair. And at that point, she stopped talking to me because it was more important to her that
Mm-hmm.
her opinion be the law of the land, and that's what made her evil, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes her evil, is that her opinions about life and the beginning of life and the punishment of having sex in the first place should be what everybody else has to live by. And I'm a Thelemite, I'm OTO, I'm an ordained priest, I'm super into do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And
Mm-hmm.
do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law sounds really great as every individual. Woo! I get to do what I want. But the real truth of it, the spiritual mystery of that statement, is that everybody else gets to do what they willed. You have the freedom to decide what the fuck you want to have happen in your life. And the whole baby thing, as
Mm-hmm.
women, is a big fucking deal. you know, it's it's kind of a big deal. It
It
changes
changes your whole life.
everything.
It changes your whole life. I mean, not just your body if you're birthing it, but I mean, financially, I mean, you have to, your whole life kind of revolves around, that huge life change. If you choose to bring a child into the world, like everything changes.
Right.
Um, and
So
some
the
people simply do not want to do that, but it doesn't mean that they should just stop having sex. Like they should be able to have sex, and sometimes things happen, or birth control fails. Like they shouldn't be then straddled with a child that they don't want.
well, human
That maybe
beings are biologically designed to orgasm without having babies.
exactly,
Guess what? That means sex is not for procreation. So fuck
exactly.
you and your whole punishment bullshit,
Exactly.
you
Well, that's the
know?
thing is, people that are out doing the things that I think really most people want to do, but they won't admit it, because they're good religionists, and that's we can't approve of that outside of these very narrow um, circumstances.
Property laws where women are
Mhm.
property,
Yeah.
basically. Let's just say it.
Yeah. And so, anybody wanting to break that mold, well, this is your punishment then. We have to legislate you, we have to do this and that to kind of keep you in line, or to, impede you somehow. And it's like, no, you're getting in the way of human progress when you are legislating other people's bodies. You
Well,
know,
yeah, because actual human beings get to do what they want. We actually get to do what we want, and that's like the point of the whole great work in the Western Hermetic tradition. This whole thing of magic, this whole thing of the occult is that we get to do what we want. We get to decide what kind of life we want, and we get to tap into these hidden sources and conjure these spirits and do this magic and change reality as we experience it. We
it's
get to
exciting. It's a huge calling. And it's something that, we have to be able to like look at. And like you said, it is understanding your spiritual authority, understanding the mantle of what that actually entails, and walking fully in that, and not,
yeah,
you can't dither around. There's no dicking around on some of these issues. You have to take a stance. Remaining
well,
neutral is not really an option at this point. And a
right,
lot of
because
people
can
try
I
to
say it?
remain neutral.
Can I say the words?
Yeah.
All right. Um, with great power comes great
Great
responsibility.
ability. Yes, thank you.
We have to do it. We have
We
to
have to go
curse
with that.
with
But
it.
yeah, that's so fucking true. It's very true. It's we have to. And that's the thing is people who hesitate, you know, I question whether they will ever be able to achieve great things if they're not willing to, utilize their full magical repertoire
Right.
at their disposal. And cursing is one of those things, whether they like it or not. It is absolutely one of those things. And if you are trying to be neutral, then you already decided,
Right. You decided
you
not
know?
to do anything. You decided to watch.
Yeah. And so you can sit, but fine, if you want to sit back and watch. I mean, I understand people who, they might feel caught between a rock and a hard place. Well, welcome to the club, but we're out here changing reality. We're out here, fighting the fight, like a lot of it is within ourselves. We're evolving ourselves. We have to like overcome a lot of our own baggage and bullshit to move forward. And so,
Yeah.
we do that, we do the work, the internal alchemy, but we also are dealing with these massive, cultural, societal, religious, political changes. There is no neutrality. There's no such thing as being neutral. And,
Exactly.
those who claim neutrality have already chosen. And so, yeah, you can be a passive observer and you can watch while the rest of us, evolve humanity. You can sit there and watch, or people say, well, that's impossible. No, watch, because I'm doing it anyway. We're going to go out here and take the reins and shape it to our will. And if you want to have a world of your choosing, then you need to get in the game and like make the rules, and get out there, whatever that is. I mean, we all have our own, intentions and will, and sometimes they match up and sometimes they don't. But if you're just sitting on the sidelines, like, A, what fun is that? And B, what a fucking loss, what a waste. Because there's so
Yeah.
much to do, there's so much we can do. Why can't we just, get out there and do it? Like sitting at home, twiddling your thumbs, to me is never an option. I mean,
Well,
yeah, we all need downtime. We have things that we do for leisure. Yeah, we have to have leisure time and recharge those batteries. But I feel like if you're not actively, engaging and dealing with these issues head on, then you know you're kind of sidelined, and then like you're crippled on some level
and
magically because you're not willing to go out there and expand.
yeah, and speaking of the whole level magically thing, when you all right, so like I said, thelemic and hermetic, that's my whole path. The process that we go through is about refining ourselves and becoming more effective in manifesting our own reality and the reality of others around us. And the whole point of doing that is attaining a specific I want to say righteousness, but I don't know if that's the right word. But but we don't just do this stuff for fun. It's not just for our own benefit. What we're doing is changing the world. And it's not, I mean, yeah, it's the world we experience, and yeah, it's the way we want it to be, and sure, it's fun and we make more money and all those things, but you know, it's it's actually about making the world a better place for everybody else to be able to do the things that we're doing. You know, the whole point of this great work is not about making ourselves better. I mean, that's the first step, one of the very preliminary steps. But creating an environment where people can just be themselves purely and express themselves purely. That is that's essential, and just cutting out cursing because it's morally wrong. That's like saying you can't actually scrape any oxidiz oh my god, it's a hard word, oxidization off of your battery posts on your car so that you can get a better connection, to start your car. It's really fundamental. You have to get rid of the negative to accentuate the positive. I just went back to the
If your appendix
1920s.
ruptures, you're probably going to get surgery and get it cut out, or you're going to have some problems. I mean, that's how I see it,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. This whole thing is about surgery. The whole moral imperative of cursing the fuck out of people is basically getting rid of the people that are fucking around and causing obstacles in the path of human evolution. If you really believe that your spiritual work is about evolving yourself and the world around you, then you must use curse magic to excise the obstacles. Whether it's Ganesha, the opener of ways, or some Mercury talisman from the Greater Key of Solomon, all these things, all these systems have methods of getting rid of the things that are in your way. And if people are in your way, curses are the way to get them out of your way. Every system, Christianity is supposed to be this blessed, wonderful, beautiful thing. Saint Paul was in, I think it was Antioch. I'm not really sure where he was. It might have been Athens, but he was being blocked by some person locally, and he called on the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit sent the Pneuma Hagion. It is the spirit of silence to this person who was speaking shit about Saint Paul, and that person was muted. They couldn't speak. The pneuma hagion is a curse that I use today about people who are gossiping against me. You
Nice.
call on the spirit of silence, and you send that to the person who is, talking out of turn, and it's an effective way of doing things, and it's biblical. I mean, in Acts of the Apostles, these Ananias and Sapphira went before St. Peter and said, "Hey, here's all our stuff." And actually, it was only half their stuff. They had sold all their stuff and kept half the money and gave half the money to the church, and they were struck dead by the Holy Spirit. They were cursed to death because they were lying. You know, lying is a sin in the Bible. Guess what? When people
And yet
lie to
people
you,
use the Bible to negate curses. They think that, oh, well, it's not biblical. You should just forgive. But the Bible is riddled with times where people, supposedly like righteous people cursed, God himself, cursed people
yeah,
regularly.
he cracked
Okay.
open the ground and swallowed half the Israelites because he was
I
mad
mean,
at them over a cow.
exactly. Throwing a tantrum. I mean, and that's the thing. And that's the funny thing. It's like people try to use the Bible as a basis to condemn, so many things when in fact, it's absolutely like a, can be seen as a magical text as well. Um, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, the history of cursing, across different societies. Every society has curses. Every society has, their
Yep.
version, their way of cursing. And, and like, yeah, you started to kind of bring that up, but you want to go more into that because it is a very time tested, honored tradition, cursing
Well,
across
yeah,
cultures.
like our earliest magical text, the Sefer Ratzaim, I mean, it's a text full of all these spirits that'll work with you, but also against your enemies. The Greek magical papyri, a great deal of the curses are about chariots, chariot racing. It goes back to making sure that the people that you bet against fail. It's about getting ahead for yourself. Magic, the demons of the Goetia, the archangels of the Sephiroth or the seven magical planets, the spheres.
Mhm.
It's about encouraging your own strengths and also, hindering the people who are opposed to you because everybody isn't enlightened. When you've accomplished great work, when you have if you go into Rosicrucianism, you're supposed to create the Philosopher's Stone, and it's supposed to be this wonderful thing that you grind up and mix with water and administer to the people at large. And it heals basically depression and anxiety if you look at the actual text. But
Mhm.
you know, the whole purpose of this thing is to create a better world for everybody around you, and you cannot create a better world without eliminating negative influences. It's just like being in a toxic relationship with a partner who tears you down every day. If you're in a toxic relationship with a partner who tears you down every day, you have to leave them and reestablish your foundation and achieve positivity in your life. But the first step is eliminating the negative. And this is something that I think most people who are watching have been through, honestly, because I've been through a couple of them. It takes the willingness to excise the cancer from your life, you know? And that's the moral imperative of what we're doing. If you really think that you're a magician who is going to make the world a better place, you cannot make the world a better place without getting rid of the bullshit that's surrounding us, you know? And that bullshit can only be gotten rid of through um, you know, cursing. And I'll give an example from the Greater Key of Solomon. The talismans of Mars. There is one talisman of Mars that is a healing talisman, and what it does is if you apply this talisman of Mars to the afflicted part of your body, it creates a result where you get more healthy. Okay, and Mars is the lesser malefic. Saturn is the greater malefic. Mars is the lesser malefic. When you use this talisman in a healing way, what it does is it destroys the destroyer. In Thelema, in our Gnostic Mass, we have this part where we say something about conjuring that spirit that destroys the destroyer. Destroying the destroyer is part of our magical work. It's necessary, it's effective, and it's meaningful. And it's not something that just came up in the last 100 years. It's something that goes back throughout our entire history as magicians. You destroy the destroyer. It's necessary. So you use the malefic against that which is malefic. You destroy that which destroys. Cursing is normal, natural, and actually part of what we're supposed to do.
And see, that's what I, love. I mean, like I said, that post, just generated so much, thought. And, I really, respect the fact that you are such, an advocate for, so many things, from, body autonomy to just, humanity, being able to see that, um, being able to look at it, objectively like that. This really is a necessary thing. And it is an imperative. Um, and I know that imperative may seem like a strong word to some. I mean, people kind of balk at they tend to balk at this idea of, well, isn't that, imposing your own morality? No, this is like objectively looking at
Right.
humanity from an evolutionary standpoint, and it is absolutely an imperative. And there is no neutral, and and okay, going back to medicine. Okay, if you have certain types of illnesses, you can apply antibiotics and you can heal the body. So yeah, there are certain types of magics we can do where maybe you don't have to go full magical assassin on them. And okay, that's enough to heal the body. But if you have something like gangrene, something really serious, you know,
Right.
you keep no amount of antibiotics is going to cure it. You have to cut it off. Like like it crosses a threshold. And so when I see people crossing certain lines, so there's like levels of merit that warrant these types of curses, levels of bane, where if you cross certain lines, then this is like beyond the point of gangrene. You have to be cut off. Like no amount of antibiotics or other type of work is going to reverse that course. So by people choosing where they are on those particular issues. I mean, again, you can believe what you want. You can be you know I mean, and when I say pro-life, I consider it being, pro-forced birth, because forced, pro-life would include, public, welfare, you know, care and support for, these children, if we're talking about, the abortion issue. So again, and you see like a lot of stuff on Facebook. Yeah, it's not so much pro-life as forced birth, going back to this idea of punishing people for natural human sexuality. Um, but once people start crossing those lines, I mean, that is kind of like there's no redemption. And you're doing yourself a favor by cutting off that arm. You're doing humanity a bigger favor. And people may think that is extreme. Fine, that's okay. I'm okay with being seen as extreme in my views when it comes to cursing, because I understand like a bigger picture. I have a bigger, plan and purpose. And those of us, I think that are can look at it with a more open mind instead of being so situated and so attached to this idea of, you know, absolute moral rights and wrongs. And, when we understand, free will, that really does mean like free for everyone, even those you
Right.
disagree with. But when it starts infringing upon your right to, practice and live your life, then again, it's an act of war, and will be dealt with as such.
I think that's fair. I mean, honestly, that's fair. If you come at me or if they come at you, fuck them. They're asking for it. And that's fair.
And I like I said, I'm very, I don't just like, you know, issue curses like I'm throwing confetti. It's just not something that
Right.
I do very often. I mean, and I
It's
have
not like we
levels of
have time for that.
I don't have time. I'm too fucking busy, in, you know, my own magic and, pushing forth this idea of, hey, let's change the world. Let's make it better. that's where I'm focused. That's where I'm heading. I don't have
Yeah,
time to just, randomly curse people. But when something crosses my path that is so, I see this as such an issue that
egregious.
needs being dealt with, egregious, then absolutely I will deal with it, as I see fit. And even so, I have different levels. It's not always just, two bullets in the brain pan magically.
Well,
Sometimes it's a level, it's like progressive. It's like, okay, I'll light the thunder, light the fire under your feet first, give you a chance to kind of, change
see,
course a bit,
see,
maybe learn
you're
some lessons. Like I will usually build up, you know,
you're
like with
kind of
people
nice
if I
about
feel like
things.
I try to feel like, okay, not everything deserves a bullet,
You
magically. I
know,
think,
so that's fair. You are a nice person. You're
well, thank
kind. You're kind to these people. But
well, some
honestly,
people, I mean, but some people are like absolutely like, no, if you cross this line, like I won't even hesitate. It's like the trigger will just be pulled. Like there's not even a question. So it just depends on, I kind of look at like a case by case, basis. But I feel like, overall, like I don't have a lot of warm fuzzies for people that are, anti-choice, who
right.
are, you know,
All right, can
and
I
it's hard.
can I be completely honest here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do the graduated approach to cursing. If if you piss me off, it's a death curse because I am really compassionate. I have done the work. I understand where people are coming from. I understand that your parents were assholes. I understand that you were inundated with Reaganomics and whatever. I am super understanding. For you to piss me off at this point in my life, you get folklore, and that's a death curse. And I'm sorry for whatever harm that causes to the people that actually give a shit about you in spite of your bullshit opinions. But I don't have time to really waste on this shit. If I'm gonna curse someone, fuck them. They can die and start over. And better luck next time. And I
Mhm.
mean that with like all of my heart because I love them. I want them to be better people. But the way they are right now is fucked up and it's fucking up other people's lives. So I go right to the Goetia, I go to folklore, and they get a paper cut, it gets infected, and somehow they end up dying. And that's a really shitty thing. So just don't be a dick around me. Don't be a dick
Mhm.
in general, but I don't have a problem with fucking you over for being a fucking asshole. Because basically you're fucking up other people's lives, and that's not
And no,
fair.
no, that's a good point. And when I say, like a graduated system, it's not so much a graduated system of cursing as just, magical things that I do, like there's different kinds of baneful things. But when it comes to actual cursing, that's not something that I take lightly, and again, like using the gun as an analogy, like you don't just wave your gun around, and
Yep,
point and shoot someone in the leg. Like if you're going to draw down on somebody, you shoot to kill because you better not. Why would you take out a gun unless you actually needed to use it? You
right.
know,
And and,
like
and when is
to
it
me, it's the same thing
necessary?
like with gun safety. Yeah, you don't pull it out unless you're, unless you absolutely need to use it. And then when you use it, like again, using the home intruder, when it comes to shooting somebody, it's like if you shoot them and wound them and then try to like even offer, aid afterwards, you're the one that's going to go to jail because then they think, well, then if you were going to use lethal force, like were you really fearful for your life if you didn't shoot to kill them? And if you then tried to help them afterwards, you're the one that's actually going to go to jail, as well. So you have to shoot to kill. It better be serious or don't bring your fucking gun out in the first place, you know?
I yeah,
And
I agree. I agree. There's a threshold, but at the same time, there are social standards where we draw the line, you know. And I think it's important that other people who are watching this, you know, on both
mhm.
sides of the debate where this is concerned, that they understand that we're those of us who can are kind of sick of their shit, and they don't get to just get away with talking shit and telling other people what to do anymore. You know,
Exactly.
I don't mean this to be like this whole threatening blogcast or vlogcast or whatever. But honestly, everybody who is watching this, please understand that I will curse you to death if you fuck around with other people's lives. Because I hate you, and I think you're actually a cancer on the whole thing that we're trying to do as an embodiment of God. We're trying to, experience this whole thing in a manner of joy. And you're just fucking with it, you know? So that is a thing that I think is my personal moral imperative to curse. And I'm not going to curse it with, please evolve into some kind of heightened spiritual awareness. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm sick of it, and I don't think we have to deal with it. I don't think that the rest of us should have to deal with your bullshit. And, you know,
Well, and that's the thing, is being concerned about what happens to them after they die. Like that could actually get in the way of, the curse itself, because then it shows like there's some level of caring. Like, well, hey, I hope you evolve. I mean, yeah, yeah, that could be what happens. And that could be like a good, hey, like, but in the heat of the moment, of the heat of the curse, you can't be concerned with that. It's like there's just the curse in that moment. It's just the, you know, you're fucking cancer, you need to go down. Like that's it. Whatever happens, after that fact, like I'm not emotionally invested in it either way. I think you have
yep,
to be able to have that cold, calculated way of seeing it, or else people would hesitate. And a surgeon that hesitates, it's sloppy surgery. You might
right,
leave some, and you can't afford to leave some. You have to cut it all off, cauterize it, and then be done with it. And then,
exactly.
hey, after the fact, it might be nice, like, thinking about, well, hey, I hope that, if there is a second time around, people have the chance to evolve, but like not really investing too much, energy into that. It's more, boom, but right now in this moment, you're a giant douchebag that needs to be taken out. Absolutely. Boom, you're gone. Like
Exactly.
it really is that simple. And people,
Yeah.
people, we get a lot of shit. People say, well, you're a sociopath, you're a psychopath, you're a violent person. No, I'm really not. Like if people that know me, people that, like I try to be pretty easygoing, I'm really tolerant. But when, like you said, when you piss me off, when you reach a certain point, then this is what you should expect. And like I said, yeah, this is not like a threatening video, but this should serve as a warning. Anybody, yeah, out there, you've been put on notice. If you're engaging in this,
Yeah.
and this level of fuckery, understand you're already under a curse and you will continue to be cursed. And, pretty much you already have one foot in the grave. And we're just, sitting here and knowing that eventually that reality will shift into place. And that is that.
Okay,
Um,
so we've talked for a while. Can I shift things just for a minute?
yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Cursing is love.
Love it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So anytime that I would curse someone to death, you know, basically I'm just saying you've put up with enough and you're fucking things up. You deserve a break and better luck next time. It's an act of love. It's an act of compassion when you get rid of a thing that is detrimental to 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 life itself. It's not about being a dick, and it's not about being judgmental. It's about actually loving a person enough to say, "Hey, look, you know what? You've wound up in a place where where shit's gotten out of control, and it's time for you to move on from that. And here's an opportunity, and
I fucking love it. Yeah. That is a bold stance. But
well,
that's a perfectly valid stance, because from a spiritual point of view, from the bigger picture, from a very limited human, who wants to, appease, the masses. Oh my God, no, that's not that, oh, we can't go there. But no, actually we can go there, because from a bigger point of view, when you see the bigger picture, when you learn, looking at it from that spiritual alchemy, that evolution, you know, think of it like a wounded animal. If it's so wounded that it's suffering, you put them out of
Yep,
their misery. And
exactly.
same thing with, that's how I see it. It can be an act of compassion, even though the actual event, can be somewhat traumatic for the person being cursed. Like their life might fall to shit and they have all kinds of problems and they might die a horrible death, or it might be a very peaceful passing. But either way, it serves the same purpose.
Right.
Um, but I feel like being able to recognize that, hey, usually people who are engaged in a level of fuckery where they feel like, they're so miserable inside that they feel like they need to control other human beings, maybe because of their religious conditioning or
Or
social
whatever.
conditioning, but whatever it is, but they feel so inclined that they have to, control other people. Well, that to me speaks of great spiritual pain, great emotional
Yeah,
pain. And they're obviously
exactly.
dysfunctional human beings. If they're controlling other humans, then you're a failed fucking human being on some level.
Right.
And so let's just, wipe the
Wait,
slate clean,
wait,
start
wait,
the
wait,
fuck
wait.
over.
You just said failed fucking human being.
I did.
Yes, you did. Yeah, no, that's exactly the thing that the whole curse thing is about. It's and all right, so the self-righteous aspect of that, when you feel like, oh, I get to judge whether or not you're a failed fucking human being. I mean, what gives you, what entitles you to make that decision as a human being? How do
Me
you get to?
claiming my own fucking godhood as a magician and taking that mantle, I understand that authority. And so I'm not afraid to wield it
Oh,
for
sure,
me.
just put it in
But
3 seconds.
but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, that is a pretty big fucking,
But
like,
no,
who are
you
you
just
to
said it.
decide who gets to live and die? Well, dude, you know, okay, as a former medic, yeah, I've had to, be in charge of who lives and dies. I've been in life or death situations where, there were not some, there were hard calls to make sometimes, and, triaging people, and, I've seen a lot of crazy shit, out in the field. And I feel like, what gave me the authority? Well, I was put in this position, I mean, I took these classes, I got licensed, that was, a career path for me at one point.
You did the
But okay,
work.
as I did the work, and as a magician, yeah, I don't just up and decide, well, I'm going to go, decide who gets to live and die. I mean, no, that's like, crazy people who, take guns into nightclubs, they feel like they're in the right. So it's like people might say, well, you're splitting hairs. What's the difference between you going up and shooting up people in clubs and banks, and then you doing this other act? I mean, where is that line? Well, the difference is, like, a lot of these people are, you know, they're extremists, they're mentally ill, they're racist. I'm none of those things, but I've put in the spiritual work, and it's like, I don't, like I said, I don't. This is not just like a snap decision. Well, I'm just going to go and I get a bee in my bonnet and I'm going to go decide who, spiritually lives and dies. No, that's not where it's at. It's because I've been studying and practicing for years. I've put in the time, and I've seen the different directions, magical trends. We've all who've if we've been out here for any number of time, we've seen a lot of magical trends come and go.
Oh, sure.
Um, but like, yeah, understanding, your spiritual authority, like when we choose to do this work, then you do take on the responsibility of making the hard fucking decisions.
Right.
And a lot of people cannot handle that stress. It is stressful. It is seemingly arrogant by society standards to say, well, who
Well,
died and made you God? Well, here
fair.
I am.
I mean, it's fair, right? We've
Yeah.
done the work and we've attained a level of whatever attainment we've attained, right? And do we trust it? Do we trust our personal opinions on things? I mean, we're not stupid. That's we're not idiots. We know what we actually think about things. We know why we think that thing. We've done the work. We understand where people are coming from. We're compassionate. It's not coming from a place of punishment. It's not coming
Hmm.
from a place of revenge or outrage. It's
Exactly.
it's coming from a place of healing, because the great work is about healing everybody around us. And sometimes healing requires excisement. You cut out the thing that's evil. You use the
Exactly.
malevolent to accomplish something good. And it's not personal. We don't do it
Yeah.
for us. There's never a time I've cursed anyone. All right, one time. But besides that, and it ended poorly. But we don't do this stuff for us. We do it for the betterment of others, and I think that's the measure. You know, if you're concerned about whether or not you're cursing someone for personal gain or out of just being pissed off, sometimes righteous outrage is a righteous outrage. And you can be pissed off at someone and curse someone and it's good. And other times you're offended because they said something insulting to you and you want to curse them. And that's bad, obviously. If it's a personal ego thing, don't don't curse,
Yeah.
or hold off maybe. Wait until they
I
actually
try to
do
look for like
something.
the like, yeah, I try to consider more than myself. It's like, yes, I've done, personal curse work against people who have like transgressed against me in pretty heinous ways. So yeah, that merited a curse, and I was emotionally invested in that outcome. And, I love the results I got. But, generally speaking, it's like, okay, all the shit that I see, happening, in society, it's like, maybe not all of it affects me directly, but it's like I see other people suffering as a result of this. So you can, as a magician, advocate for other groups of people. You
Yep,
know, like I said, you have a penis. You don't have to birth a baby, but yet you're a wonderful ally because you see like the shit that women go through when people try to legislate our bodies, and so you're willing to step up and be like, you know what, this is not fucking right. You know, if when one group is being oppressed, like that has a propensity for other groups to be oppressed. So we should not let that oppression continue. So,
exactly.
you know,
Yep,
and that's the thing is people don't like to get involved unless they feel like it's affecting them, but it does affect them when you see people being stripped of their basic human rights as well as their, rights, whether, were legally voted in or whether they are considered inherent or basic human rights. Like when you see that being completely ignored, in certain groups of people, like step up, say something. Don't just remain on the sidelines and be
yeah.
silent.
And
Um,
do something. If you're a magician, do the magic. Actually take steps magically to alter your environment. Eliminate the negative, accentuate the positive. That's I mean, it's a fucking song from the 20s. You do the good thing. You do the
yeah.
good thing, and that's
And
that's what we
even
do.
and that's the thing is people also feel like cursing has to be, personal against, person to person, like hand to hand combat. That's not always the case. It can be at times, but you don't have to just curse people. You can curse institutions. You can curse like the spirit or the essence of something.
Oh
So
yeah,
whether it's like the essence of greed, whether it's, racism, whether it's, you can kind of like consider it like, like the chaos, like burning the path to be able to replant. It's a kind of destruction that you can just destroy things, and it's not directed at one person in particular, but like it's like clearing the energy patterns. It's destroying something so then something better can be rebuilt. So it's
right.
not just person to person, but it's like tearing down these institutions that yeah humans made, but it's because it's almost like they have their own egregores, because so much energy has been focused on it and put
Yep.
into it collectively. So addressing it from that issue, as well as, hey, there's just sometimes there's fucktards that just need a magical bullet. It is that simple. Yes, there is that type of cursing, but then, on another level, there's like a whole other level, to take it to as well, to address like the underlying root issues that can be cursed. So, you know, for people out there, like if you're not inclined to necessarily single out individuals, okay, like if that's, where your moral compass is at and that's where you feel like, is your line, okay, that's your true will, but still understand like you're not free from, you know, cursing, because anytime you are opposing, anytime you are acting the adversary, you know, um, it's an act of defiance, it's an act of rebellion, it's an act of cursing
But
the
it's
status
also
quo.
normal. Actually, that's something that we should be doing all the time.
Yeah,
We should be
it's basic
opposing.
hygiene. It's like spiritual social
Yeah,
hygiene, you know.
exactly.
It,
You don't take a shower. Thank you for using hygiene. Yes, you take a shower to get clean, and basically cursing is lie. It's soap. All it does is kill germs, and germs die because they are terrible for us. And fuck
it
them.
removes that which is no longer needed. So this could even be, you know, yeah, people. It can manifest as people in your life. It can manifest as their presence, or thought patterns. Um,
Yep.
but
So
it is the soap. It is the lie.
I would like to propose the idea that the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is actually, you know, a curse.
Oh, you're gonna piss off some ceremonial magicians
I
tonight.
really want to.
I love it. I love it. Yes,
But
well
no, I mean
played.
I mean the
Played.
very basic things that we do to cleanse our ceremonial magician spheres as ceremonial magician. You know, it's basically curse work. It's get the fuck out. And if GTFO is not your standard approach to things, I mean, what kind of magician are you? It's the first ritual you learn in ceremonial magician stuff. You know, it doesn't matter what path you lead. I mean, Wiccans do their own, calling of the quarters. It's get the fuck out. It's just get the fuck out. It's banishing the things that are not good in your life. And curse work is just that, and this whole idea that it's, evil or bad or whatever,
So it's
I,
evil to take a shower because we're killing germs, and germs have a right to, you know, that would be seen as absurd, you
right,
know.
because life is life, and fucking those germs in your crotch that are going to make you itch later have a right to live. No, they don't. Fuck those guys. you
Right.
know?
I'm gonna be soap the shit out of this, like that's the thing. And and if somebody is like, filthy, like I'm gonna like hose them down with soap and water too, maybe from across the room, but they're gonna get hosed as well. If I see them as
Exactly.
their germs they're going to be isolated, they're going to be dealt with. So
Yep.
that's all this is. And
Hey, hey, for
again,
the
that's it's
record,
it's going to ruffle feathers. What
let
was that?
let's start wrapping things up. But
Yeah, no,
yeah, because we
but
could
no,
talk
this
all night. I have a feeling.
Yeah, we can. And we'll, you know what? There'll be other times. There'll be other times for, for some other chats. But this has been a lot of fun. Rufus, thank you so much for
Wait,
coming
wait,
on.
wait,
And
wait. So you actually do sort of dark stuff for people, right? Like
hmm
you take clients who are looking for dark work.
yeah,
All right, so I want that to be known, and people who are looking for that should go to Sorsha for that kind of thing. I do not. All right, if you want dark work done for you, fucking do your own work. That's my thing, and please do not come to me because over the last couple of weeks when I was promoting this thing, I've gotten a lot of requests for
I bet you have.
people. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I have my own list of people I hate. You can go hate on whoever, but Sorsha is in a place where she's okay with doing that kind of thing. Please go to her and, you know, whatever. If she thinks you're worth it, she'll
I
do it.
can I can drop the links, in the comments. I'm at from the ashespublishing.com. That's where I offer my services for hire. And, do you have like, I mean, and for those of you watching, definitely, check out Rufus's YouTube channel, sign up to his page. Um, Check him out on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know. I actually, at this point in my life, I've kind of feel like I've done my work, and at this point, it's all commentary. I I I I I accomplished the great work. I created the Philosopher's Stone, and I've healed people, and that's basically what I do now.
right.
And this opportunity to explain how curses are actually part of our life as magicians, especially for people who think that they're like, above all that shit. You're fucking lying to yourselves, and I'm at a point where I can just say that. So, but no, I don't do personal work. Please don't ask me for readings, don't ask me for curses, don't ask me for jack shit. Please go to Sorsha and
I
whatever,
don't just do baneful things, but yes, I do have several rights that I offer, but I do have a particularly baneful right that I am asked to do on occasion. So yeah, and it's kind of again a case by case. There's certain things, if I feel like it's merited, I'll go for it. If not, then I'll tell you to
Is it
you
about
know,
the exes,
what? You know
the
what?
ex
People
partners?
I actually haven't had anybody come to me, just to curse an ex, because to me that doesn't seem like,
Oh,
really
no, no, no,
interesting. Like
no, not that. The all right, so when I was doing all the magic for hire stuff, like they came to me all the time to get their exes back or to
oh, that
ruin. Yeah, you get that a lot?
not too much that. It's more like, cursing enemies that have come against them or hurt them in business,
Mhm.
things like that. It's
Well,
more of that nature.
you're definitely more practiced than I am, for sure, and anybody who's looking for that, please go to Sorsha. I am I am not the person. I will tell you to go fuck off because I
Well,
don't have
thank you.
time
I
for
will
that.
happily, I will happily chat with you, and we can come up with something. So I definitely, and I have to be careful how I present it, because I cannot,
Hey, look,
tell
if
you
you
that I'm going to like magically try to kill somebody for you. I can't legally say that,
right,
but I
but
can
she
launch
will.
something, and if death happens to be a pleasant outcome, that could be the ultimate goal, but I cannot guarantee that as a result. I just kind of do the work, and I find that, but the thing is with a certain type of cursing, I have different kinds of clients come to me. Some people, they want to do like what they want to do a curse so it can help them move on. And I find that those are actually better, because it's like, hey, this is like a final ending of these energy patterns of these people. It's, getting them out of your life for good, and then you move on. That
You're
seems to
so
work
nice
better.
about it.
Well, I mean, so the client can move on from whatever was coming against them.
Right.
So I mean, I can,
You know,
you know,
funerals are great.
what was that?
Funerals are great places to achieve closure. Is all I'm saying.
Exactly. So I mean, they can absolutely like, move on, but it's like a lot of people, I don't know. There's different ways to look at it. There's definitely different ways to look at it.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But the one that I offer for
You're
hire
compassionate.
isn't like a. It's more. It's vampiric jars of destruction and bane. This one is, not necessarily like advertised as, bullets in the brain pan. However, that could be a viable,
It's not your
outcome
fault
depending
if it happens that way. You just do the right, and what happens happens, and it
what happens
happens
happens.
the way it should.
That's kind of how I see it. With this, particular right, it's more like, there's, I mean, I have the description, there's descriptions on the page, but yeah, I had to be very careful when offering a baneful right for hire, because, people either get the wrong
Yeah.
idea, or legally there could be some weirdness. So I have to be careful,
No,
you
I
know,
understand. I totally understand.
but yeah,
I
check it out if people are interested. They know where to find me. But
yeah.
I feel like, yeah, this has definitely been fun. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Please don't contact me for baneful rights. I am not interested. I don't want to do that for you. I have my own list of people that I'm taking out, and your personal life is really your problem. Please feel free to contact other people who are interested in helping you, but it's not me. That is kind of where I want to end things. But also, I my list of people that need to be taken out are anybody who ever tells somebody else legally what they have to do. You know, you're entitled to your opinion on what you do with your life and your choices you make, but the bottom line is your choices are your choices, and you don't get to tell anybody else what their choices are. That's Thelema, you know. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law, and do what thou wilt applies to everybody else. They get their own choices, and if you fucking step on anybody else's toes, you know, consider yourself cursed. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
folk, yeah, and it's literally folklore, and it's a standing curse. And I did it years ago, and I keep it in operation. And folklore is rofocal, and it's basically uh, uh, you get an infection that can't be cured, and then you die. And it's for the greater good of all mankind. And I just want
Nice.
you to know that everybody who fucks with everybody else is under a general curse, you know, and amoxicillin is great, but it doesn't fix everything. You know, there are limits to what can be cured. And do take care in what you say to other people about what they do with their lives, because the people who have power to do this kind of thing are watching, and we care. You know, we really do. We really care about everybody, including you. And if you're a fuck up, you know, we really want you to have another chance.
I love how you put that. But yeah, that's absolutely the reality of it, and no amount of protesting is going to change that fact. So
Yep.
I respect that, man. I appreciate what you're doing. And thank you so much for posting that and putting that out there and being willing to come have a chat, because I think that it needed to be discussed
Yeah,
and
and
talked about.
thanks for the whole evening. I've had a really great conversation.
This has been fun. We should definitely do it again sometime. Thank you so
Oh, sure.
much. And thank you guys, everybody watching. Thank you guys for joining us. And we will see you again soon. Take care, guys.